Today I'm going to tie a lovely little fly called the clan chief. The clan chief is a wet fly, and it has its tradition sort of in the late 19th, earliest 20th century, and pays homage to sea trout flies and salmon flies of the time. It's a fantastic fly, particularly fishing on lakes and tarns and lochs, particularly in a dropper, as a dropper, and is pretty straightforward to tie, but it does have a few little intricacies that we'll try and unravel during the course of the video. So first of all, let's go tie-in thread. I'm using black tie-in thread. I'm favouring here a nano silk, just purely to reduce bulk, but you could you just use an 8/0 black tying thread. If you wanted to, you could drop down to a 12/0. Let me just put my glasses on, to a 12/0. But I'm going to use this tying thread. This is a Semperfly nano silk. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down a nice even thread base along the hook. Now the hook I'm using is a Kamasan B175 size 10. You can go up to a size 8, down to a size 12. I'm going to take it down so that my thread is in line, approximately in line with the barb of the hook. And I'll just get rid of the nano silk tag. Now to do that, I always use a scalpel blade because they're replaceable. I don't want to dull my scissors on that very, very strong thread. Next stage, this fly has a tag, so I'm going to use some gold holographic tinsel to form the tag. I'm going to cut off a little bit there, and I'm going to tie this in along the side of the fly, like so. Pull it in. That's it, position. There we go. And then I'm going to carry on my thread wraps all the way along, round the curve of the hook. Touching turns, nice even thread base. And I like to take it so that my thread then is at 45 degrees to the hook point. There, and that's generally, another one, there you go, that's generally enough. And then I'm going to take my thread back up to my tying in point. There we go, and leave that there. Now the next stage is optional. For strengthening the tag, I'm going to apply a little bit of super glue, which I've got in a packet here. A little bit of super glue, very fine amount. You don't want to overdo it, because if you're like me, you'll end up sticking yourself to absolutely everything. And I'm just going to put a little layer of super glue just on my thread wraps, and then I'm going to take my tinsel and I'm going to wind it back up to my tying in point, so that I'm not leaving any gaps or any bulky sections of the tinsel. I'm just going to take my time. Up we go. Now the clan chief has lots of variations. This is just one variation that we tie, but you can adjust it to incorporate all sorts of different feathers, different colours. We're trying to keep close to the traditional pattern here, so I'm going to take those up and finish, and then just lock that down with a couple of wraps like so, and then come in with my scissors, trim that off, and then that's all nicely laid down. Okay, next stage is the tail. Now, unusually for a fly, this has a double tail. So it has a yellow piece of floss or antron, like so. And on top of that, we'll be placing a red piece on top. So it's a dual tail. And this piece of antron, I'm just going to give it a little brush out with my dubbing brush. I'm going to place it on top like so, and then a little pinch wrap, 1, 2 to lock it in place. Make sure that it's on top like so, and then do exactly the same. Just adjust this, do exactly the same. That bit I don't need to brush, but do exactly the same with the red section, so it's sitting on the top of the fly. Let's put a third one in just to hold it. There we go. So they're sitting so that we've got our yellow underneath and our red across the top. I'm not going to cut those yet. I'll play around with those in a bit. I'm going to take this waist end, but I'm going to bring it down and cut it at 45 degrees along the stem of the hook, so that when I wind my thread back towards the eye, I can form a nice taper of the body rather than have a step produced. I'll bring my thread all the way back up and bring it so that it's right at the base of the tag. There we go. That's what I wanted, right by there. And it's in place. Okay. Now we can trim the tail. So I'm just going to come in. Now the tail ideally should be the length of the body. So if I'm going to use my scissors there just to give me a guide, and I bring them across, I'm going to cut there. And there we go, we've got our tail there. Now the tail length can be your own personal choice. You can trim it very short, you can keep it very long. It's absolutely up to you. Okay, next stage, there's a rib that goes into this fly because we're going to be palmering a hackle. So I'm going to use this oval silver tinsel here. This is a French tinsel. So I'm just going to take some off my spool. And again, tie it in along the side of the fly so that we can keep that body in a nice tapered profile all the way down to the front. Now notice that I'm leaving quite a lot of space at the front because there's a lot of detail that we'll be putting in. I'm just going to take my thread all the way back, because now we can put our dubbed body in. Now I'm going to use some a black dubbing. Now this is black seal's fur. Black seal's fur is not very forgiving when you try and dub it on, and you can use some dubbing wax. I'm just going to trust my technique, and I'm just going to dub a noodle of seal's fur down along my thread. I'm just going to take one turn just to trap in that end and tighten it up. And now I'm going to take that and I'm going to do 2 turns, twist to tighten. 1, 2 turns, twist to tighten. 1, and so on, all the way down the body. And I'm checking it all the time to make sure I'm not going back over bits I've already dubbed, and I'm not leaving any particular unsightly gaps. As we get towards the end, there we go, we've now got our nice leggy seal's fur body in play. Okay, now for the Palmer tackle. So for the Palmer tackle, I'm going to use black cock. So this is a neck, Chinese, and I'm looking for my hackle to have fibers or barbules that are the gape of the hook. So if I just place it there and I bring it there, you can just see they're just maybe a little long. So I'll just go back to my cape and see if there's one that is a little shorter. I'm not sure I'm going to be that successful, but we'll try. Let's go back to the first one. I much prefer the first one. And there it is. You can see that this feather has got this natural curve to it. So the top of that is the shiny good side, and the underside is the dull not so good side. And when I tie this in, I want to tie this in so that the good side is facing myself, so that when I rotate the feather around the hook shank, it's always facing out to the front. So I'm just going to prep the feather. I'm just going to take off these fluffy sections, and I'm going to place it just at the front of that dubbed body and take 1, 2 turns. And I'm going to bring my tying thread closer to the eye now, because I'm going to use this as an opportunity to secure this in by bending back the stem and then coming back with the tying thread over it so that that is nicely secured in. And then I can take the tips of my scissors and just trim that out like so. And now we can think about palmering that hackle. And often it's a good point just to put in a little whip finish or a half hitch just at that point, just so that we don't knock that thread and it bounces off and everything unravels. So now I'm just going to take this feather, I'm just going to bend it back and just soften up that stem to make it easier to bend. And I'm going to come in with my hackle pliers at the tip, and I'm going to take a rotation at the front of the body. So we're going to go 1, and then I'm going to take my feather down the body in even turns, leaving the same gap between each turn. The more turns you take, the fuller the body, and some of your flies you may want them to be very full. It's always worth having a couple that are tied less full, so that they just sink a little bit more in the water to imitate that sort of emerging insect. So in this one, I'm going to tie this one quite full, so I'm going to go 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to finish on the upward stroke, like so, and then I'm going to bring my tag and just trap the tip of that feather down by keeping tension on the rib. And I can undo my hackle pliers. And now I'm going to counter rib with my tinsel, and I'm going to wiggle it as I'm going along, so that I'm reducing the number of fibers that I trap. 2, 3, equal sized turns, so leave the same distance between each one. We should get 4, maybe 5. It's just, there we go. Just take your time. Not quite happy with that as it's, there we go, as it goes in. And then I'm going to finish at the front. Just take everything back, wiggle, there we go, finish on the front, and I'm just going to use my tying thread to trap that down. Now my working thread here is a bit long, so I'm just going to shorten that. There we go. I've got a few fibres sticking out, but we'll worry about those in a minute. And I'm just going to take a moment to draw all those fibres back with my thumb and finger, and then put a couple of finishing locking wraps at the front, like so, so that that isn't going to go anywhere. And then we can come in, just nip that out. And then we've got this tip section here that with a firm pull, jerk towards me, I should be able to get that to snap off. I'm going to hold the vise while I do this. There we go, off it goes. And I've got the main part of my body with the hackle in. Now there's two hackles we need to put in now. You don't have to put them both in, but I'm going to put some red in now as an accent, just at the front of this palmed hackle. So there she is. So I'm going to go through the same process, trim off, just take off the fluffy bits. There we go. Tie it in on the side like so. I don't have to worry about doubling this one over, not too worried about that. I'm going to take my hackle pliers and take hold of it. Now I'm not palmering this one, I just want to put a couple of turns just at the front. Now just soften that up so I can rotate it. It's already starting to want to twist, so I just need to adjust. There we go, what I'm doing, there we go. So one, going to draw everything back. Two, I'm just going to put a third turn just in front. There we go. Turn number three, and then lock it down with my tying thread. One, two, and then trim off the rest of that feather. Don't worry if you take a few fibres with you, it's going to happen. And I've still got the stem there. I'm going to come in and just now trim out that stem now that we're secure, like so, and draw everything back like so. And now just lock down that front section of the fly like so. And we can see we've got our nice red front section, front hackle in there as well. Now at the front I'm going to cloak it with a rather nice hen hackle. You could use guinea fowl, you could use a partridge hackle, French partridge, dyed, darker colour. We talked that I talked to a few people the other day, and we were talking about how you could tie this in sort of browns, and you've almost got a beetle pattern. So I'm going to choose my hen feather. There we go. Got my nice hen feather. Again, same as before. Top of the curve, shiny good side. Underneath, not shiny, not so good side. And I'm going to take off the fluffy bits at the end, but for this one we're going to tie it in at the tip because the stem is very thick and very bulky. So I'm going to take the tip, I'm going to treat it like a game feather, and I'm just going to take my scissors and trim that down because it's going to be hard to trim later on. And I'm just going to place it on the side of my hook shank and trap it down with a couple of turns like so, and just fold it back a couple of turns in front of it like so. I'm going to come in just for security, put in another little whip finish just there, because we're getting quite close to the eye and it's very easy to knock it. I'm just going to come in and use my very sharp scissors and just trim off. Got two bits there that are eluding me. There we go. Trim those off. And now I've got my hen feather. I'm going to attach my hackle pliers to the stem. I'm going to lift it. Now I'm going to wet my thumb and forefinger, and I'm just going to draw all those fibers back on themselves like this. So we're going to fold them salmon fly style, so that we form a doubled cloak of soft hen fibers in front of the red section. To keep just folding it back, don't go over each one, each turn in front of it of the last, just starting to want to rotate there. So I'm just going to take my time. There we go. Just manipulate it with my finger. So that's 3 turns like so, and I'm going to finish on the next one on my upward stroke like so, and come in with my tying thread. 1, 2 lock-in turns, and I'm just going to trim that off like so, and then draw all those fibers back, and I can form my head right at the front, pushing all those fibers back. Now this is one of the benefits of using a GSP spun thread, nano silk in this case, because it's not making a massive amount of bulk there at the front, and I've got this very pretty little head that's produced with this cloak of softer fibers at the front that are hopefully going to pulse in a wave or in the water. And then I'm going to come in 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 whip finishes just to finish it off. And there we have it. We've got our clan chief, or a variation of the clan chief. And all we got to do to finish that off now is just that little bit of varnish just on that head. So I'm going to use some clear varnish here in this detailing pen. Just add it to that front of the feather on that head, front of the fly, sorry, and there we have it. The clan chief.